I was born in Afghanistan. Um, my parents are both from Afghanistan, and I'm the firstborn in my family. Growing up in Afghanistan was really hard because I don't remember much from it because I lived there for maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years I lived there, and we had to move because there was a Taliban war which was happening while we were there. And my parents, they just wanted a better lifestyle for their kids, and they were sick and tired of hearing gunshots. Like we were sleeping, like that was our lullaby, like hearing gunshots. So they didn't want that because they grew up like that. So in my dad's eyes, education is something that is really big. Education was always something that he wished that he had. Back then, I guess everybody had to go to the army. So my dad, when he went to the army, he had an option of like volunteering in like a hospital type of situation where he was a nurse. He really loved it. He was like, I wasn't afraid of blood. I really wanted to get in there and do all this. So he's like, I wish that I had that education to do it. Like, I don't want to deprive my kids of that. So when I was born, he made that decision that he wanted to move to Uzbekistan because there's schools there. At that time, I was 2 years old, and my brother had just been born. We lived there for about 5 years. We found out that my brother, well, they didn't know that he had autism, but they knew that he was intellectually disabled because he wasn't, you know, he showed those symptoms of not learning or, not even being able to speak properly. So there was a lot of delays. And when they noticed that, that's when my dad knew that, okay, I have to get my kids out of this country and get them someplace better because now I have a child who's disabled, and I need to know what to do. So he went in and he got an interview with the refugee center from America. And we were one of the first group of families who were immigrants of Afghanistan who fled the war to get picked. And it was a great year in Virginia. And then after a year, my mom, she had an uncle in New York, and she wanted to move to New York to be close to her family. So my dad was like, okay, and we moved to New York. We first came to America in September of 2000, and then we moved to New York in September of 2001. And then we weren't even here for 11 days, and the Twin Towers crashed. So when that happened, it took my family back like 20 steps from where we came because we were constant victims of you know, discrimination. They were calling us terrorists, and like we were that family who just moved in the neighborhood and nobody wanted to talk to us. So it's been high and low. As I grew up, as I learned, and education was never something that I took for granted in my family. Like, I always wanted to learn and learn and learn. And as I learned, I taught my parents. And as my parents learned and I taught my sisters and my brothers, we never took education for granted because we knew how important it was. My brother, because they didn't know he had autism, they didn't know that he needed interventions. He needed early interventions where he needed to get, therapy. They didn't know any of that stuff. So all they did was they gave him, a piece of paper and like, oh, here, practice writing 1, 2, 3, ABC, which didn't help him because he didn't have any motor skills. So, he was deprived of that education, and I don't want any other kid in the world to be deprived of that education. So that's why I became a teacher. And then I also became a teacher for my brother because I was like, if I could take those experiences I learned in the classroom and apply it to him, it's gonna help him. So I made it my life's goal to help him because my parents couldn't.
Give me. This one. But it's good. He has like a sixth sense. Good. Okay, man.